Hello everybody, and here we are again with InkTV Resurgence League Week 2. I am joined here by Brush and Popgun, and we are going to be getting into everything today. Popgun, what did you think of the matches from yesterday?
First off, I just want to say hello to the idiots in chat. It's an honor to be entertaining you guys yet again, as easy as it is to do. The matches from yesterday, Zero Deaths did anything but zero death. Jackpot made sure of that. The more exciting match, of course, was Alliance Rogue versus Penguin. The first time a set actually went to a game, a third set, I should say. Went to a game 3 in the final game. A whole set being decided by Flounder Height splat zones. Entertaining stuff. Probably miserable to play, but from our perspective, very entertaining.
Yeah, it was a really interesting set. And Brush, what are your thoughts on the Team Starburst? What are you expecting to see from them tonight?
I mean, it's a loaded question looking at the scene right now. I mean, obviously Starburst just continues to dominate in any setting. So it's difficult to sit here, right, and find, oh, you know, what's the secret to take down Starburst here. So, you know, a team super strong, we were joking about it earlier, they feel like they go completely undefeated no matter the scenario.
Yeah, they definitely do. Popgun, do you have anything you'd want to add about Starburst?
They're good. I think the candy's a little bit overrated. I'll say this about Penguin, though, going into this set. What's probably frustrating about Starburst from their perspective is everybody that's going to be playing against them is going to be bringing their best effort because they know they have nothing to lose. Penguin tonight, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, is a heavy underdog, even though the players from Penguin have proven in the Resurgence qualifier and last week in their loss to Alliance Rogue, they're a really good team. The problem is Starburst is basically a team from Japan that just so happens to live in North America. So Penguin has nothing to lose. They're supposed to get destroyed, so they're at liberty to play above their own means. They can play a little bit better than what they normally do because of that. So Starburst, from here on out, everybody's going to be giving them their best effort whenever they play them. And, well, Starburst doesn't really seem to care. I'll say this, though. Whenever Starburst loses a game, a singular game, we act like that's the end of the competitive community as a whole. I mean, we did the intro yesterday for Graveyard Shift, and one of the things we showed was K-Bot talking about how amazing and spectacular it was that Graveyard Shift won a singular game against Starburst. And that's just at the point where we are in the scene right now. I think they're 47-0 against teams from the West.
Yeah.
So, yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, and I do believe we have a quick little video to show you guys on Penguin and some information on them from themselves.
Penguin is your last qualifier into the InkTV Resurgence League. They have gotten the last spot.
Mini skirt on, take my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Right, baby, I'm not going home with y'all. Mini skirt on. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with y'all.
So hello, I'm Promano. I'm a sub and I used to be the coach for Penguin. I play the role of Slayer, Cam, our leader, and also a French Slayer playing Sushi Machine. He's the player that whenever one of us goes down, Cam will be there to get the revenge kill. Fantar is a Slayer which is mechanically gifted and he will catch his opponents off guard. And finally, Noah is a really versatile player with a big weapon pool and he's able to play weapons with many different playstyles. If I had to describe my team in one word, I think it would be the word explosive. That kind of represents our playstyle, and I think this word just describes what we are doing in game. Penguin Penguin's biggest strength is, I think, the fact that nobody kind of knows us, since people are not used to play them. They are not actual top players, they just are good players that play the fun together. So people don't really know their matchup against us and they can underestimate us a bit. There is also the fact that we have a team of 4 Slayers. It's a bit weird for people to play against us, because we play really fast and we have a really aggressive play style. And I think that our biggest strength is that people doesn't know us and are not used to play against us. My teammates and I want to show to everyone what we are made of, and we will.
And we are back. Now, Brush, what do you think of a team of 4 Slayers?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it earlier today off stream. There's this idea of playing so many Splash-O-Matics are going to end up in these just mechanical fights. And it's a difficult thing to take on when you're playing a team like Starburst. So a tall order ahead of Penguin. Is 4 Slayers really that different from the rest of the competitive scene right now? I'm not so sure. So how much of a leg up that really is for Penguin, we're going to have to see.
Yeah, it definitely will be interesting to see how they do with that mechanically. Now, Popgun, what do you think Penguin would need to do to take the set from Starburst here?
I don't know. Look, here's what they're going to do. They're going to run Splash, Neo Splash, and Machine. Probably do double crab at some point, which a lot of people have been bringing up, especially during Starburst's run at PAX. What's the point of doing the thing Starburst is going to do as well? Like, why are you trying to beat them at Starburst's own game? And it's a problem of, well, if you try something different, it's going to take you a long time of scrimming and grinding with that different kind of comp that you're going to use to try to counter what Starburst is going to do, as if Starburst hasn't seen something like that anyways. So if we're going to do something different, we're months away from getting into something completely different, well, by the time you do that, maybe a new patch will come out and dictate the things be changed anyways. So if you're a Penguin, you just got to play your game. You just got to do what you do best and try to impose your will on the other team. Yes, when you think about who the other team is, it seems like an impossible task. But if you can just find your ways, because you're going to get those windows. You're not going to get many, but you will get some windows to try to get something going. If they move quickly enough and they recognize where those windows are, they can keep themselves in a game long enough to maybe where they can win it towards the end of it. So that's all they really got to focus on. Just keep themselves in the game and not make the one huge blunder to where, okay, now we're down by 90 points and it's just 4 minutes of Biscuit squid bagging us.
Yeah, for sure. We actually have a couple quick stats to compare where we have Starburst, Spagel, and we have Fantar from Penguin. Sorry. And Brush, what do you think about these stats?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you see overall from Starburst as a team is they're leading the league in assists. They're playing a very cooperative game with each other. So even looking beyond, the highlighted red here with Fantar having the most deaths per minute versus Splats, KDA, and Paint on the side of Bagel leading, these tell a story in terms of how these teams are playing with each other. Starburst, Spagel, I mean, a great player in their own right. Maybe not playing the Nautilus we've seen in the past years from them, moving to that Splash-O-Matic in this game, but being able to play with their teammates, put Paint on the ground, that's what's winning them games.
Yeah, having Paint on the ground always makes a huge difference. And Popgun, do you think that Fantar's change in Paint could have something to do with what they were talking about during that interview?
Well, as long somebody's got to paint. If you're going to have 4 Slayers, eventually somebody's got to put it down. Now, when you use the weapons that Fantar's using right there, 74% of the time using a crab, other 13% using the Ink Strike Splash. By the way, take a guess of when that Tri-Slosher, the 13% of the time that weapon gets used. It'll be determined if they actually go to a Game 3 in Splat Zones and Flounder Heights shows up there. But yeah, with Fantar's ability, you look at the deaths per minute, you basically just got 1 per minute there, so that's around 5 over the course of a 5-minute match. Phantar's ability to stay alive with the aggressive weapons that they have on display there. And keep in mind, those stats from the league, those are from last week where they lost 4-1 to Alliance Rogue. So those are some good low death total that they're using there in a losing effort. So that makes that stat look a little bit better as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. And as has been mentioned about these teams before, they do tend to run very similar comps to each other, and they do tend to keep things pretty consistent with each other. So a lot of it is going to come down to more mechanical skills. And so we are going to be discussing the map modes that will be coming up here. So Starburst lost the initial coin flip, and Penguin chose to ban tower control. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think that's the right move. I think you want to try to get Splat Zones to show up at some point in the set, just because that Splat Zones flounder is the only one that Starburst has lost on so far. And you get tower control out of the way, that's probably Starburst's best map and mode, or just best mode in general. So yeah, it's a smart pick by Penguin to try to give themselves the best situation to win the set, as little as the odds might be.
Yeah, I mean, that said, you can't put all your eggs into one map mode, and so Penguin here still has to be able to take the rest of the Splat Zone set, take the rest of Rainmaker at least, maybe even that Clam set. So it's a bit all over the place. It's always a strategic which map or which mode, sorry, you want to ban. Tower control is a little bit slower. It's a little bit more disorganized. So when we're talking about Starburst, a team that is playing off of each other so well, having a little bit more randomness factor with Clam Blitz and Rainmaker, they're also giving themselves a little bit of an edge there.
Yeah, Rainmaker is a very interesting map mode. Teams definitely seem to like it way more now than they did. What do you guys think that they might be doing on Hagglefish Market Rainmaker, starting us off here?
Well, I think they're going to do double crab, Neo Splash, and Machine. That's just my wild guess as far as Penguin is concerned. But Rainmaker at Hagglefish Market, it really just comes down to, can you find a way to clear that first checkpoint in the mid and then make the jump to where you can get all those points off of that one jump. Maybe at some point you might see some team try to lull the other one to sleep by constantly pushing mid and then maybe duck to the left side when everybody overcommits to the mid. But a team like Starburst is going to be disciplined enough to try to make that adjustment a little bit quicker. But that is something you can try to do that's a little bit different here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always an interesting time going into Clam Blitz. Or Rainmaker, sorry. Rainmaker is always very interesting, very fast-paced, which both of these teams should definitely enjoy. Brush, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Penguin, the Quad Slayer, I'm going to bring it up again, but it gives them this opportunity to play these flanks, play this aggression, and play skirmisher roles with weapons that we typically see a little bit more in a disciplined Slayer setting. Hagglefish, that left side flank, is something we don't see used often, but when we do see it, it's generally these big game-changing plays. So if Penguin can find an opportunity to sneak in, play a little bit slower, and find a flank to take the advantage, a good push, one good push is all they need. It's not the sum of your pushes. It's just one winning push.
Yeah, absolutely. One winning push is all it takes. And do you guys, and Popgun, do you happen to think that any of the team stats that we've seen from both of these teams throughout the league so far might have a role to play in that?
Well, potentially. Now, the problem is when you look at the league stats, again, Starburst won their set 4-1. Penguin lost their set 1-4. Starburst did it against Graveyard, and Penguin had to go up against Alliance Rogue. So some of those numbers can be a little bit misleading. There's just not enough data for things out there like that, and both teams only played in one qualifier as well. Another interesting stat, though, not looking at just team play, but just the one player in particular for Starburst. If there's one player you really need to key into if you're Penguin to try to give yourself the best opportunity to win this set, you got to find ways to kill Biscuit early and often. Biscuit currently leads the entire league after week 1 in total kills at 53. The only players that are in second place are 16 kills behind in Keo and Goss and Madness at 37 after the first week. And you might be saying, well, Starburst had to play 5 games. Some of those other teams had to play 4. Well, no, these stats are based off the minutes. Starburst actually played 1 less total minute than Crush Soda. So if you can find ways to kill Biscuit, who's getting 2 kills every time they die themselves, if you can drive up Biscuit's death rates, maybe try to force Biscuit into situations to where you can get a 2v1 going, to where it's at least a trade. Biscuit only gets 1 player killed on their way down. Maybe that can open up the door, but then you still got to deal with Bran, Bagel, and Ice, which is easier said than done. But I think maybe that's the key. Maybe just key in on 1 player and try to cut off one of the arms and try to just deal with the other ones later.
Yeah, for sure. Cutting off one of the arms can make a huge difference in situations like this, and making sure that you have a target that you're focused in on can absolutely change the flow of a game. So the next mode they'll be going. So do you guys have any predictions for who might take the first Rainmaker set?
I mean, Popgun, I don't know if we have the graphic on hand. We have what all of our, there it is, all of our caster predictions. Popgun, you and I see pretty eye to eye here, as does nearly everyone. Starburst, we're all expecting to just have a cakewalk through. So Rainmaker being our first mode, it's difficult to see an angle where Penguin is going to be able to find an upset win. Popgun, I don't know about you, I'm giving Starburst this one.
Well, look, I think Penguin can still make it interesting. They kept it very interesting and close against Alliance Rogue last week. The problem is the only teams that have been able to beat Starburst since Splatoon 3 has been out have had one thing in common. They had at least 3 players from Japan on their roster. Last I checked, Penguin has 0 players from Japan on their roster. So history would tell you this is going to be another safe win for Starburst. And until Starburst actually loses to somebody from the West, I'm not going to pick against them. I think it'd be pretty silly to do so.
Yeah, it does seem very unlikely that a shift in what's predicted will happen here. Definitely one of those sets where there are some expected outcomes coming through from everybody, both watching and to some degree probably from the players themselves. And we are going to be heading over to our casters, Zach and Rissa. Hope you guys enjoy the set.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome into the second day of week 2 for the InkTV Resurgence League. We've got a fantastic match coming up for you in Starburst versus Penguin, and later on, we'll be checking out our second match. But for now, my name is Shiny Hunter Zach, and joining me as part of the official Standing Man and Standing Woman emote commentary duo is a person so prominent they can't even be contained by their own Discord server. That, of course, being Rissa. Welcome, Rissa. What are you thinking for today about this match?
First of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Loved that. It's an honor to be casting again with you, Zach. But today's match, it's one where you might think, generally you're going to be thinking Starburst is going to be the team that's going to win. But I just always have that little bit of faith in the other team, just like the underdog. And for Penguin, I'm kind of seeing them as that. I'm excited to see if they can pull something off.
Well, the host desk really drew a fine line under the fact that Starburst, I believe the number was 47-0 against teams in the West here. Taking a look, of course, as a reminder for the modes presented today, we're guaranteed to see Rainmaker and Clam Blitz. And for Rainmaker, we'll be starting out on Hagglefish Market, a relatively neutral starting ground, as it were. Although Rainmaker, Rissa, anything but neutral in the way that it could be played.
Oh, absolutely. Rainmaker I always say it when I'm commentating, I always see it as the more chaotic game mode in a sense where, things can happen really fast if you are really not on your defense. And since that Rainmaker is a more mobile objective, that's where things can, turn really, really quickly and snowball. So I think that we're starting out on Rainmaker is super interesting. And, I don't think I've seen this yet when I've commentated in the league. So that always makes it that much more fun.
Well, and both teams, I think, getting a chance to sort of play to their strengths here. But let's go ahead into game one. Rainmaker, a mode that we really haven't seen much of in the league to this point, especially in these first 2 weeks here. Taking a look at the compositions, we do see a little bit of a surprise here. Noah going to be going with the NZAP 85 for that Tacticooler and using a bunch of special charge to generate it quickly. And Ice bringing back the custom Jetta weapon that they've really favored over these last few weeks.
I love this because, you know, like you said, Zach, we don't get to see that NZAP that you pointed out. And then Ice is, I saw Ice play that Jet Squelcher out at the Nintendo PAX event. So getting to see it here in person in the league is always really fun. And starting out here, 2 members actually going down on Starburst. That's 3 members down on Starburst. Brand there just left alone in that crab, trying to do everything he can to defend. And doing a great job at it, not only getting a pig, but going to be able to flank around and play off of their teammates coming back from spawn. So Starburst putting a stop to that initial push from Penguin pretty fast.
Yeah, what a sequence of events. You know, the desk mentioned that Biscuit would be one of the major players to shut down, and as part of that 3-down situation, they did so, but it gets turned on its head just as quickly as their push came out, as Starburst able to take it over to that left-hand side checkpoint. That's often where they'll go just to dunk the Rainmaker. It looks like Bran able to paint a path here, and it's looking like they may have something to go. Ice being patient as always, and Rissa, that's something that I really like about watching Starburst, is just how patient they can be.
I know, I feel like every time I commentate Starburst or even just watch them play as a spectator, that's the thing that always stands out to me, their patience. Even if they're down, they always still have the patience to regroup and make things happen. And here they had the patience, even though they didn't have the best opening and Penguin had the better opening. Starburst was able to wait and then just play off of their patience that they had, have confidence, and get their score all the way down to 15.
Yeah, both teams, I think, getting an opportunity to sort of tailor the modes to their advantage here. For Starburst, you know, they lose against Graveyard Shift in game 1 of last week, so they put Splat Zones at the very end of the rotation. And, of course, for Penguin, able to ban tower control, that's something that's been really, really popular in this tournament series so far. And Starburst being the patient team that they are. Speaking of patience here, Penguin basically just sitting back on the Rainmaker and hoping they can create some space. But tower control for Starburst, they're able to use that overtime opportunity. Even if the other team gets a push in the last 30, 20, 10 seconds, they are not afraid to work with what little time they have in OT.
Great points to bring up about that. And speaking of this game, Starburst, again, having that patience, that's the word of this game so far. It could be the word of this set. Just waiting here, knowing that they have mid. You can see they're getting jump-ins as well and allowing themselves to just hold mid. And they are really not letting Penguin move at all. They're even just kind of bagel here, grabbing the Rainmaker and baiting it on this left side as they just stall for even more time for themselves.
Promano holding down the proverbial W key there. You saw in the interview with Promano that they consider themselves a team of 4 Slayers, and that's exactly what it looked like they were finally doing there on the Rainmaker with under 2 minutes left to go. 15, a very difficult number to hit in just about any mode, and with the Rainmaker relatively stuck here on this left-hand side alleyway, Starburst not feeling too needed to go anywhere, but just holding down mid, and they're using Brand's Crab of even to make sure that they can't really get out from mid, which is where much of Penguin is trying to allocate themselves, pretty much ignoring the Rainmaker as Bagel has visibility over that, taking over for Brand in the regard of using their special that way.
Once again, Starburst in control of the Rainmaker, and it looks like they're really not rushing to push the Rainmaker to completely KO it. You can see they're just trying to wait for that perfect opportunity. They have just consistently been in control of the Rainmaker. Starburst, Ice here, just holding the Rainmaker on the left side, just shooting out Rainmaker shots and stalling this out as long as they can. Penguin has to figure out what they need to do to get in to stop this Rainmaker, to get that paint in mid that they need to be able to even move. But they're going to have to be able to get past Biscuit here on the machine. Biscuit taking down 2 members of Penguin as they were just trying to get out of their spawn.
Yeah, that's the difficulty, is look how much map control they have. Of course, Ice not really able to get out of that Booyah Bomb. I was going to mention that a previous Booyah Bomb basically hit Biscuit in the chest, and they were still able to move out with how much room that they had. But Ice having to clamber atop that box didn't get the opportunity, and now finally, after what sounded like minutes of waiting here and forceful entry, Promano and the rest of Penguin pushing forward here. We see Fantar using a burst bomb to get away, and they're able to successfully gets the pick in the trade as well onto Bagel, and that could be important as we're now in a 3v3. However, they have just enough room, and Penguin losing the Rainmaker at the worst possible time despite the trade. Starburst able to hold it all the way back and spawn a Booyah Bomb just to solidify things with a late pick onto Cam. And with that, Starburst taking game 1 here on Hagglefish.
Ooh, Starburst did a great job there. Just consistently, once they got their score all the way down to 15, that whole game, their confidence was really showing. They knew they were just sitting really nicely with the mid control they needed. They had the Slayers up ahead that they needed to slow down anyone trying to come in from Penguin. And with the way that they played that game, I don't know what is going to happen with this next Rainmaker game that we go into.
And Marissa, we've talked about themes throughout the league, including the qualifiers. One of those themes has been that pushes into the 30s usually don't get you where you need to go. Pushes into the teens and beyond, those technically are oftentimes, especially on tower control, a mode we're not going to see winning numbers, and that is exactly what happened here on Rainmaker. We move now to Museum to Alfonsino. The way this map is structured changes the playbook a little bit, but for Penguin, they're going to have to change more than that if they want to reverse sweep in this set.
In this game, I really want to see Penguin utilizing that. Like you said, they say that they are 4 frontline players. I want to see them utilizing that aggression, using that for the flanks around the right side of the map, being able to drop and flank and just pinch Starburst in that way. That's what I really hope and want to see from them going into this next game, because I think that could be the key to helping them potentially win this game.
Well, let's see if that key, in fact, opens the correct door for them here on Museum de Alfonsino as we get ready for game number 2. Of course, Starburst can take this set. Remember, we're in set play here, so they need to win 2 sets out of 3. Penguin needing to reverse sweep in this set, as mentioned previously. And compositionally, doesn't look like Starburst can be changing much. They'll have the double vanilla splash, as well as that deadly sloshing machine coming out from Biscuit. On the other side of things, a composition Penguin has come to be known for in the double splash with the double sloshing machine.
I think it's so interesting. Just a quick note, we have not seen Neo splashes yet, so I feel like we're reverting back to that double crab comp that we're seeing right here in front of us. Both teams trying to get into mid, popping the Rainmaker, seeing who can get the first picks, and right now it's an even playing field. Both teams have 1 member down, and slowly but surely, each of them is just slowly pushing up to see who can get the additional picks that they need to push.
Yeah, you want to talk about meta dependencies. Ice, in a previous life, was going to be the 3rd Splash-O-Matic as we see the first push on the Rainmaker come out successfully from Starburst, getting to the pedestal there and planting the Rainmaker. That'll get them to 58 here. The Booyah Bomb from Biscuit going to come out and provide a little bit of extra paint for Ice to jump up to 27. You know, typically your anchor player going to be the one to carry that Rainmaker, and the rest of your teammates, in Starburst's case, painting the way for them effortlessly.
Now Biscuit, oh my goodness, I was gonna, highlight how Penguin needed to get the Rainmaker and watch it out of their spawn. Biscuit, though, running in, grabbing the Rainmaker to just stall it even more. Now Penguin here, knowing now that Biscuit ran through and just grabbed the Rainmaker to stall it out even more. Penguin now grabbing that Rainmaker and actually using really good specials here to start getting a push in, but it looks like Biscuit was actually doing that flank that I talked about, dropping down on that right side, getting jump-ins too, and just completely shutting down that momentum that Penguin had there for a moment.
Yeah, it's a tough dance on this map. If you're stuck in the low ground, you don't have the best visibility because you're constantly having to move around. It feels like there's a microscope under you. But on the opposite side of things, where Brand just was when you're on that high ground, feels like you can see almost everything. And that's exactly where you want a crab to get, although Brand needed to move out a little bit to make sure that the members of Penguin were in their sights there. Speaking of Penguin, they'll pick up the Rainmaker. It'll be Fantar grabbing it from atop of their plinth here, looking for a pick. I think it's Noah who's able to get the pick onto Bagel before losing their crab, but maybe a worthy sacrifice here is Biscuit, the last player remaining to try and guard against the now guarded Rainmaker.
Biscuit, are you kidding me? Just holding this right drop all by himself, literally a 1v4 there, and now in all that time that Biscuit was stalling there were other members of Starburst coming in and trying to add on to the pressure that Biscuit was creating. And once again, look at that, Biscuit dropping down again. I love that Cam here recognized that Biscuit just keeps dropping. Cam noticing that happens, but Penguin as a group, they're going to have to figure out how to stop those flanks that Biscuit keeps doing, because I feel like that's the opening that Starburst just consistently keeps playing off of.
And once again, spectating Biscuit here, sort of the guardsman of the Rainmaker, as it were, and they have their Booyah Bomb once again at the ready. A popular place is to put it sort of between where these pillows are, especially when the Rainmaker is in a position to push forward here. Bran, however, looking like they will fall, and the Rainmaker kind of in an awkward spot there, down in that little cubby or alleyway, guarded by that shield. But I gotta be honest with you, Rissa, I'm not seeing much of a difference in play here between games 1 and 2.
I would actually have to agree with that. It looks like Starburst I like the way that they just make sure that they play a little bit careful at the beginning and then make sure they get a decent push in. And then after that, they just consistently keep holding their plat a little bit ahead of their plat and mid. And that's the same thing that we're seeing happen in this game that we saw happen in the first game. Penguin, on the other hand, they did have that comp switch up. So maybe if they are able to utilize and chain their specials somehow, we saw little bits of life of that happening. But I mean, with Biscuit, they're completely stopping that. It's looking a little bit difficult for Penguin to figure out how they need to get a push going and stop Starburst and stop Biscuit.
Yeah, bits of life, as you mentioned there, that it was a 2v2 situation, and the third member of Penguin respawned before that of Starburst, and now, because of that, it looks like they've been able to claim quite a bit of map control in mid. Yet again, those shades of our first game here, where in the last minute or so, they're finally able to get a little bit going, get some of that map control. We see the Rainmaker, I think, get picked up just for a second here as Noah expending their crab to help lock things down and try and stop the couple of members of Starburst that are hanging out on that drop down. Noah also trying to guard their Rainmaker carrier. This time it's Fantar. Beautiful Booyah Bomb is going to be put right atop the ramp and stop them in their tracks, although not take them down quite yet with 15 seconds left to go.
10 seconds here, and Fantar just needs to at least get this first checkpoint. And with one member going down on the side of Penguin, it's looking like a tough hill to climb for Fantar, as now we are in overtime. Fantar is just there alone, waiting for jump-ins to come in. You see Bagel just rushing in. Bagel was like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to run in and stop this Rainmaker, and that's exactly what he did there. So Starburst taking game 2 of set 1 and taking the set for themselves.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, right? Because Penguin was the team with the double sloshing machine, but it almost felt like we saw more Booyah Bombs from Starburst than we really did from Penguin, especially in the first half of the game, where Starburst got that push to 26 and was just asserting their dominance. Speaking of the Booyah Bomb, there it is, landing almost perfectly on Fantar, who had just enough paint to get out and back out so that Noah could help repaint that path, but it's just not going to do enough there, as Starburst, as you mentioned, doing a fantastic job of taking that first set 2-0. But as we mentioned previously, this is set play. For now, we'll cut back to our analyst desk to break down set number 1 before we head into set number 2, which will, of course, be Clam Blitz. But for now, let's have Nox, Brushstrokes, and Popgun take it away.
Hello, and we are back with you all. What a kind of an expected result out of that set. But Popgun, what do you think really allowed Starburst to get away with everything they were doing in those games?
Skill issue. I mean, look, it's yes, when you look at their positioning in certain situations, they were obviously really great with how they were spacing out. Everybody was doing their job. But the thing is, when they're constantly winning fights and they're constantly a man up and they always got their specials ready to go, it's really easy to kind of do the things that you want to do. Especially, I talked about right here, doing the push to the left, but they're already set up already on the left. They got the crab ready to go. They got everybody else in the nice position. It looks like somebody's flanking around through the mid. They just know how to attack each position of the map perfectly. And that combined with the mechanical skill, it's just a little too much for anybody to take.
Yeah, and Brush, how do you think that Penguin ended up playing into Starburst positioning?
Yeah, I mean, we were watching in that second game there, that Rainmaker able to be stalled in that like bottom right pit area. And we saw Starburst completely change their entire playstyle. Instead of taking those fights, holding forward like we saw in game 1, game 2, after Starburst got that push, it was all about the stall. It was all about the passive gameplay. They bled a solid 3 minutes off of that clock just by getting the Rainmaker in the corner, letting it sit there and not popping it, finding these nice rotations off of respawn, off of that top right ledge, and back in on the bottom left between fizzy bombs and a little bit of mechanical skill there, as Popgun, you said, a skill issue, stalling on that Rainmaker, playing passively, and Penguin was just lost.
Yeah. Popgun, how do you think that Starburst's playstyle shift really impacts other teams that they play against?
Well, I just think some teams aren't used to being challenged in that kind of way. It's if you scrim anybody else in this scene, probably at Penguin's level of scrims that they're looking for, they're probably going up against teams that are not at the caliber of what they're used to seeing right there. It's when you play somebody that's better than you and they start exposing your flaws and your weaknesses, that's when you start to get better. But until you actually see it in front of you, it's one thing to sit here and watch a VOD of like, oh, well, obviously they should go and pop the Rainmaker right there. Starburst is just gifting it to them and daring them to try to do it. It's something else completely different when it's happening right in front of you and there's Biscuit on your right and there's Bagel on your left, and you have to make all these decisions as the clock is ticking down. You can't hit the pause button. So when you actually see it live enough times, it's a good learning moment for Penguin. And as much as a difficult opponent as Alliance Rogue was for them last week, this is obviously a different animal they're facing this time around.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we are going to be heading back over to our casters for the next set.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, this is day 2 of week 2 here at the InkTV Resurgence League. This is Shiny Hunter, Zach, and Rissa back with you for the second set, which will, of course, be Clam Blitz. And Rissa, Popgun said something very interesting there, which is the basic idea being that until you scrimmage or play against teams that are maybe objectively better than you, you don't really get some of the major weaknesses of your teams exposed. With set 1 now behind us and Clam Blitz being ahead of us, what do you think Penguin, A, maybe learned from that set, and B, might try to implement here in our second game mode?
You know, if I was Penguin, trying to think really fast about what we need to do a little bit differently against this team specifically, I think it's really going to be figuring out where the flanks are on each map that you're playing on, because no matter what the mode, it seems like for Starburst, whether it's Bran or Biscuit, utilizing the flanks on the maps that we see so far, it seems like those are really catching Penguin off guard, really changing their focus, making them have to look around at those flanks that are happening. So trying to figure out how to, put your focus in different areas, I think is going to be key for Penguin.
Well, Starburst is one tough customer, and let's see what they've brought yet again here. This time, set number 2. Taking a look at the compositions, we did mention last time we had not yet seen a Neo Splash-O-Matic. Rissa, Noah catering to that by bringing one and shaking up the compositions just a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. And not only having that Neo Splash, that and taking away one machine is going to have Penguin on 3 splashes now. So I'm actually really interested how... Okay, Biscuit. Again with the flank. I was going to say, I'm interested how their range difference, having 3 splashes with shorter range, is going to play out for them. Biscuit immediately doing the same thing that we saw in that last match on Museum, but Rainmaker. This time it is Clam Blitz. Biscuit using that flank again, dropping down and just poking at those members of Penguin. Biscuit being able to do that has now allowed Starburst to come in, score in 1 power clam, and they are not able, it looks like Bran there on the right side of the screen is trying everything they can to continue this push, but they're not able to continue the push, but they're doing a great job at holding this right side space.
Yeah, Penguin, I think, having the right idea. They're forcing the fights to not take place where they usually do on this map and mode, which is behind the basket, but instead taking them over to mid and essentially forcing 3 down per side. And as a result of that, not really gaining Starburst or allowing them the opportunity to push forward and continue throwing clams in. However, they've not wasted that time, as they've got about 17 or 18 clams at their disposal. They've got a 2 squid advantage here, and it's just going to take 1 out of the 2 power clams that they currently hold in order to get this one going yet again. With Bagel pushing up and trying to be that offensive edge, they will fall, however, I believe, to Fantar, and this looks like, despite the even situation, 2 down per side, yet again, Rissa, only the power clam going into the basket.
Yeah, once again, Starburst just getting that 1 power clam in for their push that they had. But again, they're holding this right side space, and look at Biscuit here, has this Booyah Bomb ready to just continue holding this space as the rest of the members of Starburst are coming up. Starburst has 21 clams at the ready if we look at the top left of the screen there. So they are setting up this time for not just 1 power clam in for their push, but it looks like they're setting up for a really big push here.
Maybe the Guinness Book of World Records for power clams they might be trying to build here, but they've expended many of them on this push. They have gone away from just putting the 1 power clam in, and this looks like the push to maybe end all pushes. Biscuit even able to jump up top to where Biscuit has gotten, even getting the trade onto Promano there. The push will stop at 16, but I love the creativity and the work that they're able to do, even without a special like the Zipcaster that could get up there. They do it the old-fashioned way, and it seems to work out in their favor.
That really did work out in their favor. That just allowed for that trade to happen, and then also, once again, acting as a really good distraction for Starburst just to continue holding these areas that they need to. Now for Penguin, I really want to see them get some specials ready. You know, try and get defensively ready as Starburst comes in again and scores in another power clam. They do have 4 clams here at the ready, and with Biscuit here under the basket, you can see Biscuit and Bran are just juggling this, trying to, like, I'm sure call outs are happening. Hey, we just need, what is that, 2 more clams to completely end this, and finally that's exactly what happens. Starburst taking game 1 of set 2 in a complete KO.
I guess if I had to give Penguin a ability to go after, it might be last ditch effort, because that's when a lot of their best action has happened in the final minute. But Starburst not even allowing this one to go to the final minute as they end it in a knockout. You can see Biscuit here getting the assist. It looked like the direct there onto Fantar, playing the objective at the same time. This is truly a team made up of squids that can do it all. Biscuit preparing to jump up as well with the final clam, not even seeming to need it. And they take Museum to Alfonsino. We will move next to Inkblot Art Academy. And this is truly where Penguin has their back against the wall. If they lose this game, that is game, set, and match.
Ooh, that's, we are on the line here. Penguin knows that they need to turn it up for this next game if they want to continue on through the set series. Thinking about the comps that we could potentially see too, I'm really trying to think about if there's one comp that we've seen so far that worked best for Penguin, and if potentially they'll bring it back. What do you think, Zach?
I like to mention that when we go to Inkblot, the size of the map feels much more truncated. And the middle is not too dissimilar from what we just saw on Museum. It kind of feels small. There's a couple of objects that you can like shark on and hang around. But for Clam Blitz, you get a ramp just straight up to a very close basket from mid. So mid control going to be that much more important. You really don't want to be stuck back on your spawn area for this map. And that is going to be what Penguin will hopefully avoid, especially if they can do it earlier rather than later. And taking a look at the compositions, not many changes from Penguin's side, but we are seeing some from Starburst, including the relatively expected Try-Novo from Bran and the not-so-expected Splatana Wiper coming out from Biscuit.
Ooh, and looking at Starburst too, it looks like Bagel and Ice have switched roles. Ice is now the one on the splash, and Bagel is actually on the ballpoint this time. So switching it up, giving us, some different weapons to see and different roles from different players. Right away, Biscuit here using that hammer and instantly pushing up towards the members of Penguin, trying to displace them. Penguin, though, doing a really good job at spotting out this inkjet from Bagel and trying to put a stop to it. Just like that, Promano able to put a stop to that and start pushing up through this right side of the map.
The ballpoint, such a fascinating weapon that's getting some of the spotlight here in this most recent patch, along with the buffs that the Inkjet received, both in its own abilities and its abilities to take on Crab Tank, which has been so popular, but unfortunately, it's not going to give them much here as Starburst able to force a full wipeout, get the pop on the barricade, and have the Crab Tank to boot. You can see 3 out of the 4 members of Penguins filtering to our left-hand side and trying to defend against the basket. It does force Ice back after the Crab goes out, but he's able to get away, and a few clams do go in, setting up a decent push in the first minute 20.
Good starting push for Starburst. Looks like they're playing a little bit that's the same way that they played in that first Clam Blitz game. They just kind of start getting these slow pushes in, and then it seems like towards the end, they might just get a big push to completely KO it. Starburst here pushed up in to Penguin's side of the map, and they do have 22 clams at the ready. This might be the big push that they are wanting to potentially KO it, or at least get some big points on the board as they now get their score down to 35.
Yeah, we see Ice go down into the crowd, but I want to mention too, Biscuit able to come up, get the power clam in, and then uses the hammer to get out. The superb mobility that it has, not even needing to use it offensively. And a lot of players, even after the buffs that it has received, still use the ranged or throwable component of it instead of the main sort of movability of it. However, this will be it if they can get one more clam, and they do. Starburst absolutely steamrolling through Penguin, not just in this game, but throughout both sets here. As mentioned previously, that is game, set, and match as Starburst wins 2-0 over Penguin and improves to 2-0 on the league.
Yeah, I definitely saw little signs of life from Penguin there. You could see they were starting to make little things happen, especially at the beginning of that match. It seemed like they were doing a better job than they have been previously at holding space, but it just is that the way that Starburst is able to play really patiently and know what each other is doing. I think that is really something that stands out about the way Starburst plays.
Well, we're hoping to get a player interview from our winning squad, Starburst. But before we do that, let's go ahead and throw it back for a second to our analyst desk, Nox and Brushstrokes and Popgun. Once again, take it away.
And hello again. So we did just see a very much a Clam Blitz set there between Starburst and Penguin. So what do you think Penguin could have maybe done differently in that first museum game, Brush?
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like on that defensive, they were going in just one at a time, trying to find the pick that could then snowball into the wipeout they needed on that defensive, or at least the double or the triple, and it wouldn't come. What they were struggling to do was pair up, get into those clumps, play as a team, and solo out the targets to get rid of. A lot of that, though, is really a compliment to Starburst. Their ability to throw a couple clams and back up and have those rotations into the basket, that's what won them the game. That's what led Penguin into a situation where they weren't quite sure how to handle that defensive.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they were having a hard time figuring out how to adapt to what Starburst was doing. And Popgun, what do you think Starburst was doing to keep them so off-kilter like that?
They just did whatever they felt like doing. That game 4, the comp they used right there, that wasn't like a meme comp, so to speak, but it was definitely we feel pretty comfortable, let's just try something new to keep ourselves entertained kind of comp. And there you go. That's why we always pick Starburst to win right there. They just do whatever they feel like doing. And again, Penguin has good skill. They've shown the last couple of weeks that they've been a quality team coming up to the scene. The problem is everybody takes a little bit of lumps against Starburst. There's some learning curves that go on there. And, well, they got at a nice little learning session. Consider that a free kind of scrim, 4-game scrim against Starburst there.
Yeah, and Brush, what did you have? Did you have any thoughts on that 4th game's weapons?
Yeah, it was really all over the place. Not weapons we typically see from them. I know we talked about that Nautilus coming out, a weapon that was it Biscuit running it there?
It was Bagel.
Bagel, thank you. Bagel running it there. We saw them frequent that in Splatoon 2. That was a weapon they were playing with then. Bringing it back now in a new meta, in a new playstyle, in a new team composition here, and proving they still have their stripes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always cool to see that ballpoint coming out in that inkjet. Definitely a weapon that it's not a huge surprise to see Bagel on. It keeps up the paint for Starburst, along with Bagel just having a lot of time on inkjet from the Nautilus and a lot of time on ballpoint, just in general. Popgun, what did you think what was your favorite thing that you saw Starburst pull off during those games?
I thought it was cool seeing C-Jet on Clam Blitz instead of just Rainmaker. That was nice. The comp they used in Game 4 was an interesting change of pace. But again, that probably was still Penguin's best effort against that team. And to Starburst's credit, they have been looking not as dominant as they have been in the past couple of weeks leading up to this. If there was anything to kind of put a little bit of doubt to bed there, it would be to come out and be a dominant 4-0, not have an awkward game 1 loss like they had the Graveyard, where it looked like they were going to lose that second game at Mako Mart. None of those weird, we dropped a game to Nightmare in the qualifier. They came out and looked like the Starburst that they were back at PAX. So if there was any kind of rust going in there from players not playing the game enough or whatever, it's gone now. They're back to where they were. Yay, just in time. Alliance Rogue is saying next week we get to play the most fresh version of Starburst possible.
Yeah, for sure. And we are going to be heading back over to our casters for a second for an interview with Bagel.
Welcome back, everyone, to the casting desk. We want to extend a welcome to Bagel from Starburst, our winning squad for Match 1. Bagel, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on the set and how the league has gone for your team so far?
That set, to me, was it was pretty easy, I'm not going to lie. But it was also really fun to play because, I don't know, we just enjoyed ourselves just laughing and just, like, messing around in the game.
I was really curious. Typically, we see Ice playing the custom Jet Squelcher for Rainmaker. This time, it was actually played in Clam Blitz. I want to kind of know, like, what your guys' thought process as a team is utilizing that Jet Squelcher in Clam Blitz.
Well, a lot of times in Clam Blitz, there's a lot of choke points, especially on, like, Museum. So Ice can just miss off the plat or the steps, so they can't really push from steps. They can't make the jump, can't score. Or he could just miss the plat and they can't push through it. And it stalls a lot of time for us to get back in, get our crabs or booyahs.
I love that. I love the usage of that mist. It's really exciting to see from a spectator point of view.
You know, with how much we touched on it, and of course the analyst desk talking about it too, we have to ask you about that second Clam Blitz game with the major compositional changes. You know, we got to see the ballpoint splatling, we got to see the wiper. You could be honest with us; it's all right. What was the thought process from the team in sort of changing up the roles on top of changing up the weapons?
There was no thought process. we kind of just felt like playing for fun, I guess. I don't know. We just felt like playing Wiper, and I just felt like playing Ballpoint.
It's forgotten art, having fun in a game like Splatoon 3. Rissa, any final questions here for Bagel?
Bagel, my last question will be, what do you think about Ballpoint coming into the meta?
I'm pretty excited for it. I think Inkjet is a really good special right now, but I kind of want to see it more on other like aggressive weapons, maybe like Nautilus again. But Ballpoint itself is a really good kit, or it's a really good weapon itself.
I love that. I'm excited to see it come into the meta a little bit more too.
All right, well, Bagel, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on your win against Penguin, and we look forward to seeing your match next week against Alliance Rogue, and good luck to your squad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
Yep. And we are back. So, really fun interview from Bagel there. And do you guys have any final thoughts that you'd want to bring up about that last set that we just saw? Rush?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty case in point there. As to the team Starburst is in this event. You know, all of us from the casters, we voted on it. We saw this coming. I hope you did it too back at home. Starburst, a dominant team. I mean, just able to keep dominating.
Yeah, Popgun, do you have any thoughts?
They are now 48-0 against teams outside of Japan. The question is, it probably is going to get to 50. Where does it stop? That's where the question comes into play. Are they going to get to 100, or is somebody eventually going to figure out a way to beat them? Who knows?